Welcome back to the channel, Shuffle Squad family. We are proud to present you the European International Championship Meta Forecast. We're here finally. We're on our way to the next international championship all the way over in London. And we are also in a new format. So very exciting. Lots of new decks we're going to be talking about on this Meta Forecast. So you're going to want to stick around and get some helpful insight if you are playing, or maybe you're getting ready to play the rest of the season with these new decks. You might want to hear what we're going to have to say. So stick around for that. We do have a lovely panel here as always on these Meta Forecasts. So I will let them introduce themselves, and I won't talk too much in the intro here, but we'll get over to our first guest. Christian is joining us. Christian, why don't you let the people who are watching know who you are?
Hi, my name is Christian Fontenot. I am a full-time Pokemon player. I stream on Twitch. I travel tournaments, do all that cool stuff. Maybe you've heard of me, maybe you haven't. That's okay. I'm here. It's 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. now in Europe. But you know what? That's it's part of the fun, right? So if I go on dumb tangents or say stuff that's kind of out of pocket, stop me anytime. That's because I'm getting pretty tired. But I'm glad to be here. It's going to be fun. And it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, if you can pilot a Sablezard deck to a regional finish, you can do anything. So here we go.
I don't know about that one, but
at least we got to pump you up a little bit here.
Right.
So, all right. And then we'll be moving down here. The next guest that we have joining us, KingDreC1out is joining us. Dre, why don't you let the people know who you are?
Hey, what's up, everybody? KingDreC1out, Dreoxys, whatever you want to use, they're all welcome. Member of TSS, part-time streamer, pro player. I do some tattoos, a little of everything, you know. Also some Metafy coaching, a little bit more now. Took a little break from it, but I am opening that back up. But yeah.
There we go. And to round out our Meta Forecast here, we do have Jerrick. Jerrick's joining us. Again, we're happy to have you back, Jerrick. Let the people know who you are.
Thanks for having me back, PJ. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jerrick, also a member of TSS. I will be going to EUIC and then Orlando shortly after. So super excited to get this forecast going.
Yeah, and no baby announcement from you, but we'll keep moving on here.
No.
So
highest odds.
Yeah, but we will be the dads of the group here over in London, so it'll be nice to kind of have the group together again. We all get back together for these international championships to play these awesome decks. We love playing Pokemon cards. So what better to talk about than these brand new cards that just came out? So I've been having a blast testing. I want to hear from everybody else what you've had a blast testing as well. So we'll start it off here with Christian. Christian, why don't you talk to me about the favorite decks you've had so far in this format after rotation has happened? What have you been testing? What do you like? Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so I have a bit of history with gimmicky one prize decks. So Ancient Box immediately, just caught my eye, right? Love that deck, super fun to play. For a while we thought we found a way to consistently beat Charizard with the deck, and then everyone started playing Aries. So the dinosaurs are unfortunately staying in the binder for UIC. It's a shame, but you know what? Maybe after the event, maybe when the meta changes a bit, it's time for some Ancient Box, right? But for now. It's fun, but it's just that.
Aptly named Dino Nuggies because it's
Dino Nuggies. Yeah, exactly. But besides that, I'm enjoying Jim Powell a lot. Actually, took me by surprise. I've been a bit of a hater of that deck in the past, but it surprised me. It's been fun to play, fun to learn. Lost Zone is always a good time, right? Both Tina and Lost Box, and then. As long as I'm feeling lucky, Lugia feels pretty good to play. But those are the decks I've been enjoying the most for sure.
Yeah, I saw that you were climbing up the PTCGL ranks with some Lugia. You did play in the PTCG Showdown, I believe is what it was called.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was really cool, and you did pilot a Lugia deck in that as well. I did like your build, though. I saw the Radzard went back into the list. I really like that a lot. Shout out to Radzard.
Yeah, absolutely. Broken card.
one of the best cards in the format. I am also really liking Lost Zone Box a lot. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, Chen Pao is feeling absolutely broken now that VIP is not the reliant card that you have to find to get the deck to work. We've got Buddy Poffin now in the format, and Chen Pao's got a lot going on inside the box now. So we've got other Pokemon. I've even seen Kyogre being put into the list. We've got Iron Bundle seems to be the VIP of the format here. It's going in every deck now. So lots of cool things out of there. So that's great. I love all those deck choices. Dre, have you found a few similar decks that you've enjoyed testing, or what's going on over there?
Yeah, so first off, big shout out RIP to my baby Mew. So once that little pink boy is gone, I mean, I did find success early this season in the first regional with playing Turbo Lost on Box. It just was like, I just enjoy decks that are just aggressive. Yeah. I get to go fast, and Turbo felt like that. And so the resurgence of the Turbo box, but now it's quoted like a Paradox box. It just so much reminiscent of that, of my deck then, the way I've been building it lately. I'm just aggressively getting 7 in the Lost Zone in my first turn, going second. I'm going first. It's even better. Got so much options. So many decks have to evolve. I can threaten so many things. Iron Bundle is so broken.
It literally is.
It's so good, especially in that deck. And so, yeah, I've been having so much fun with Lost Box again. That's probably like my number. I'm not going to EUIC, I'll be in Orlando, but if I was going to UIC, it's pretty much like I'd lock in Paradox Box for sure. I have had a lot of fun with block locks, and that sentence doesn't usually work. Fun and block locks, but I've been having fun with block. My opponents haven't, but I have.
There you go.
And that's
what
matters.
Matter. Yes. Do they matter? So like.
I have fun is all that matters.
Yes, there you go. And I mean, Block Lax is one of my favorite decks. I'm a degenerate. I love playing those style of decks. I love having fun at my opponent's expense. A lot of cool cards. Eerie is a fantastic card that's gone in those lists. And Eerie stops a lot of things from happening. I mean, rare candies are an item card. Switch is an item card. Switch cards are item cards. All of those things. It's crazy. I wish that it did get rid of tool cards, but RIP to Sydney here. Unfortunately, we did lose Sydney to rotation, but Block Lax still good in my book. So very cool choices. I like a lot of those. I respect them for sure. As a previous Mew hater, unfortunately, I can understand where you want to play those go fast, beat 'em up style decks. So Jerrick, have you found similar success in those style of decks, or what have you been having fun testing at home?
Yeah, I've had probably similar success with those. As Christian said, Chen Pao surprisingly has been feeling really good and it's tested really well. I like it a lot. I've obviously been testing Goldango quite a bit. Now that rotation.
You had to.
I have to. Of course. That still feels pretty good.
Yep.
And honestly, Lugia, even with its little inconsistencies, has felt great.
Yeah.
This guy goes crazy in Lugia.
It's wild.
So one prize attacker and just bop, bop, bop. Hits everything.
Yeah.
Those have probably been the 3 best. I've done a lot of Future Box.
Okay.
It lacks in consistency. It feels like, sure, you do set up, you get that first hands off pretty easily, but you're real susceptible to Iono. Really have no draw. And there's really no deviation from your game plan, right? Like your opponent can play around you. Your attackers are on the board. You don't come up and surprise anything out of nowhere. So it hasn't been the best. Ancient Box, I love it too. Unfortunately, can't find a consistent way to beat Charizard. So for now, I think that deck's just to the side burner for me. But I'm excited for the new format. Test a lot of these decks, and a lot of them feel pretty good.
Absolutely. And I think that's the nice thing about this format is that there's so many decks that feel good, right? That's what we had with last format. This format, a lot of those decks feel even better because there's new consistency cards that help it work. I mean, even look at Goldango. I mean, Goldango's got Cypher Mania or whatever you want to call it. I call it CC. We're going to nickname it CC just because I don't want to pronounce it.
I just call it
every time.
Codebreaker.
Yeah, Codebreaker.
No, I'm stealing CC.
Okay. Easy,
that's perfect.
But we have CC and that helps with consistency because there's so much draw. You've got Dunsparce is still a card. We've got Goldango that draws cards. We've got Bibarel that draws cards. There's so many draw cards in the format, and I think that the consistency has gone tenfold with all of these new decks. So really anything that you want to play, as long as you can get a consistent list, it's great. And we'll talk about the elephant in the room here pretty soon here with Charizard. Charizard has been one of the best decks testing into everything because it is so consistent now, because you have basically 12 search cards in your first turn that you can find, and you have 4 supporters to find some of those search cards, and then you have more draw cards to keep going and chugging through. But with all that being said, with everything everybody has had fun testing at home, let's talk about the decks that are going to have success regardless of what we see over in London, regardless of what the meta is. We know what decks are really good, so let's get everybody's opinion here, see if we all agree. Christian, we'll start back with you again. What decks do you think are going to succeed regardless of what the meta looks like over in London?
Yeah, I have exactly 2 decks I think I can confidently say will succeed no matter what. And that is Lugia and Shenpao.
Okay.
Specifically, I'm leaving out Zard, and there's a reason for that. And that's because I think Zard is a deck it's the deck to beat, right? And while I think it's very likely that Zard will succeed, I think it has such a massive target on its back that I don't know that I'd really say I can guarantee it's going to succeed, depending on our definition of success, right? Of course. But the 2 decks I feel super confident are going to succeed are Lugia, because of its pretty favorable Zard matchup, all things considered, right? As well as just like a really good matchup spread. I think Lugia has arguably the best matchup spread in the game right now. It just suffers from losing to itself a little too much, right? I wouldn't feel comfortable playing Lugia personally, but it's undeniably strong, right? And then Shen Pao also has an amazing matchup spread, right? You beat a lot of the stuff that naturally tries to beat Charizard, with the exception of control decks, right? Control is another deck I think will succeed. However, I'm not going to say it absolutely will succeed, right? But yeah, Shen Pao feels really good. Lugia feels really good. Zard will probably do really well, but I'm not quite ready to put all my money on it yet.
That's fair. Definitely fair takes. I mean, Lugia is a powerhouse. We know that. Single prize attackers in Lugia have been and always will be good. I honestly think that Chen Pao is probably the deck instead of Charizard, and that's my hot take. If you can't beat it, you got to play it, right? Like that's just kind of how you have to look at things. I mean, Chen Pao is a super consistent deck. I know before it used to be a brick fest, for sure. And we all know that we've played it before. But now I honestly, with consistency out of Iron Hands, I think that it's definitely something that we have to be scared of, at least, if nothing else. So, Dre, would you agree or disagree with some of those decks as far as succeeding regardless of the meta?
I think Chen Pao definitely has the consistency to, like, regardless of what it faces, probably do well. But I think anything that's going to be running a comfy engine in this tournament is definitely going to see success. It's one of the strongest engines we have now that Fusion Strike system's gone. The flower selecting engine is just like it's consistent. It's survived this entire time since it's come out, a lot like Mew has, and now it has the rescue board that's a lot like the air balloon it had success with early on. There's plenty of switch cards that we still run. Even though we lost Escape Rope, we have the Hyper Blower to kind of pseudo replace that. We have the Prime Catcher, which is a Gust switch, which is super broken in that deck. So I think, and I think in the loss, anything running a loss on, whether that's loss on Tino or just loss on Box or loss on Raging Bolt, whatever you're playing, the deck that, a loss on deck will definitely make in the top 8 is like one of my hot takes for UIC. There will be a loss on deck in the top 8. Another deck though is, I think that regardless of how it goes, Control probably will do well. Okay. I think it will hit enough Zards. It will Eerie enough Chen Paos. It will find its way. I think, especially in Europe. Europeans love their Control decks. Yeah. This is probably one of the best time that I think it's like one of the best times in a long time that Control has actually felt really, really this strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
I can see those two being my decks that, like, regardless of what the meta is, you'll in top 8 we'll probably see at least one Lost Zone deck.
Yeah, and honestly, there's even 2 different style of control decks out there, which is kind of wild to think about. You know, you have multiple control style decks. I mean, there's item lock decks out there. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that can be played. And I do agree with you. I think that control will make a hot run. I think that Lost Zone box will make a hot run because just single prize decks in general always tend to do pretty well. You know, they might not be for everybody. Control and Lost Zone is a little bit more on the heavy thought provoking decks. So might not be everybody's forte and what you want to play for 9 rounds plus an extra, 6 rounds the next day in a giant tournament. Now we have to also consider that this is the biggest international that we've seen, right? It's 3,100 masters, I believe. So it's wild. So it's like the wild, wild west out there for sure. But I think both of those decks, I would be in agreement of seeing some really great success, especially with a good pilot behind them. So let's kick it back to you, Jerrick. Jerrick, what do you think about these decks? Do you think that regardless of the meta, these decks are going to do good? Do you have other opinions on decks we haven't talked about?
I think I agree with Dre. Definitely Lost Zone decks in general will do well, just because when you go to into an unknown format or into a new format, new rotation, whatever it may be, consistency is even more king than usual.
Yes.
So Lost Box engines are very consistent. People that do play it and pilot it well should see success, again, regardless of what the meta is, even if there's a lot of Iron Hands running around or other decks that you may think is a bad matchup for Lost Zone Box. Sure. The consistency will just get them there more often than not, especially when lists aren't refined yet. The correct techs aren't in lists yet.
Sure.
So I think that for sure. And I know we talked about it a bit, but I think no matter what happens and what counters you throw at it, I think Charizard, regardless, is going to see a lot of success.
Sure.
At EUIC, it's very strong. Again, same thing. It's very, very consistent. It's a tried and true deck, tried and true engine, and honestly, not much changed from the deck from last format to this format.
Right.
They don't have VIP. Well, they have Buddy Buddy Poffin, but the rest of the deck is exactly the same. The Pidgeot, the Quick Search, Charizard is 330 HP. Burning Darkness is still an incredible attack.
Right.
Energy Acceleration onto itself is incredible. So I think even regardless if decks, want to get cute, Tekken and Iron leaves, how often and how consistently is it going to work?
Right.
Other decks that are trying to tech, say, Devo TM or other things, Zard has missed energy now. And again, how often is that going to work, not only against Zard, but against other decks? So I feel Zard, even though, a lot of people do put a target on it, I think really succeeds no matter what here at UIC.
Yeah. And honestly, that's something that we haven't touched on much because there's a deck that's out there circulating around, doing okay in online tournaments for sure, has been doing okay in testing. But this deck is full of techs. It's basically a tech deck. For those of you who used to play with the mini skateboards, it's not like that kind of tech deck, but it is Future Box, which has a lot of different ways to deal with these single prize decks. It does also play things like Iron Leaves sometimes to counter Charizard. So let's talk about decks like this, and I want to get everybody's opinion on teching for the meta. Should we be teching, and if so, what should we be teching for, and what shouldn't we be teching for? So back to you, Christian. What do you think, based on some of the decks you've seen in online events or your personal testing, what should you be teching for going into EUIC and what not to?
Yeah, so I mean, with how the meta is currently panning out, I think the only 2 decks you could really justifiably tech for right now are either Zard or Control.
Okay.
Those are the only 2 decks I feel like you can ever tech for, because at that point, either you're just gonna accept that you have a bad matchup to something, and that's fine. Because no deck, that's one thing. No deck in this format can beat everything at once. It doesn't exist, right? At least not that I know of, right? But so far in testing, and I've put a lot of hours into this format, so far nothing's beating everything.
Right.
So you can't tech for anything, like for everything, and still have your deck be consistent. So I think the only thing that's like really worth like completely teching for is just like if your deck has an option to tech for control. I don't think it's terrible. 101 Gengar and Zard is a great example.
Sure.
Right. We've seen it, pop up here and there. I don't think that's a terrible shot for UIC, although granted, if I'm playing Zard to UIC, I would personally rather just tech for the mirror.
Right.
Stuff like TMD Evolution, right? We've seen spike up in popularity a bit. There are a couple other cards as well. Airy, Turo, Palpad even.
Yeah.
Right. All these cards help in the mirror, quite a lot. So I would personally first tech for Zard. I don't think you can really go into UIC and lose to Zard straight up. Unless you're beating everything else in the format, you can't lose to Zard.
Right.
And then if you can tech for control, I think you should tech for control, because if you aren't if you can't beat control, like you really can't beat control, right? It's not like, oh, it's a bad matchup. It's no, you pack up your cards in 10 minutes and you go take a lunch break, right? So if you can tech for control, I think it's worth it, but I'd rather tech for Zard if given the choice. Everything else is just not worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would 1,000% agree with that. I mean, if you're playing Charizard, also if you're putting in these techs for control, chances are they already know about them. As a control player myself, I probably already know what your techs are going to be. I know that you got the Turo, you got your Palpad, you got your Gengar maybe, whatever you've got in there. I know how to play around it already. We've played this format enough that I know how to play control into Charizard. It's not going to work. So just exactly what you were saying, Christian, just doing the techs for that mirror or for something else, maybe teching for Chien-Pao Eerie in Charizard is a great example because you're teching for more than one specific matchup with that card. And I think that that's a card that you'd want in your list for sure. And we saw, I mean, there was just a online event where a Eerie build of Charizard went like 6-0 versus Chien-Pao. So it was kind of wild. So Dre, would you agree or disagree with some of these texts, or what are you looking at as far as texts go for this format?
I definitely agree. Those are going to be like the main two, because like a lot of times if your deck beats everything else, you probably lose to control, at least from what I've seen. So like if you need to text for control, like Zard is pretty much one of the main decks. Like it probably beats everything else, but just hard loses to control. But I definitely agree with that. But another thing that like I would say for anybody that's considering Lost Box, the main thing is don't be caught without your Hoopa. Like your biggest enemy is hands and Arceus decks, and Hoopa kind of fixes that. I've seen people kind of like not wanting to play or asking if it's even good. It's like, yes, it's definitely good. You definitely play it. It fixes your worst matchups. Do that. I really did that. He pretty much hit everything else on the head. Those like control and Zard, those are the big bads. If your deck doesn't beat or have a 50-50 into those, then it's worth teching. If you have a 50-50 or anything or better, then there's no point in teching. Just keep your deck consistent. Make sure you can handle Zard, you can handle control.
Exactly. And then Jerrick, what are some bad techs that you've seen that people should maybe start taking out of their list?
Where do I start? Realistically, though, I agree with everything they're saying, but bad techs take out of your list. So I've seen decks kind of just hurt their consistency overall by just trying to do too much.
Sure.
Especially the first format of, or first event of a new format, I should say. You don't want to be doing too much. Again, consistency is key. We still don't know what lists look like. So really, what are you teching for when we don't even really know what the meta is? One of the big ones I've seen, you kind of touched it, PJ, the Charizard, like 101 Gengar line. Like that's great. Sure, it might help you beat control. But let's say you prize the Gengar, right? Let's say you prize the Ghastly. Okay. So you lose to control, a long game one, whatever, 2 games, whatever it may be. Now, for the rest of your tournament, you have 2 dead cards in the deck, so you're playing a 58-card suboptimal deck into everything else. Now you might lose against a favored matchup. Let's say you lose into like the Turbo Iron Hands build, and let's say you lose because they Iono you, and you're like, I could cut a Ultra Ball for this Gengar. Get Iono to 2, it's the Ultra Ball. You could have used that to win the game because all you needed was a Charizard. So that's definitely one of the things I think should be cut out. And then surprisingly, I think Iron leaves because I've seen a lot of decks kind of forcing it into places it doesn't belong. So like in Arctina, it makes a lot of sense. You're playing grass energy already.
Right.
Iron Leaves is easy inclusion. Arc puts energy on board. You can slam it down anytime. Perfect. Like Dre said, Lost Box, I've seen people cut their Hoopa for like Iron Leaves, try to put grass energies in there. Like, while that's all fine and dandy, again, you're kind of helping yourself in one matchup, but just hurting yourself everywhere else. So I think like the Iron Leaves propaganda, like that needs to die. And then another big one I've seen in Charizard, like you said already, PJ, the Turo, the Pal Pad. Well, again, while that's all great, that's fine and dandy. The Turo Pal Pad combination. Okay, so let's say I get out of the control lock twice. What happens now when I get stuck like the third time? Again, that's probably better as a professor's research. That might be better as a fourth Iono for just other matchups. So a lot of the techs are just people over teching for control that I think if your deck already doesn't beat it, I don't think you should hurt your consistency elsewhere. Now, like Dre said too, I believe it was you, Irian Charizard, that's an awesome inclusion. It has relevance into, multiple matchups.
Sure.
Say you're playing Lugia, maybe a second collapse stadium.
Yeah.
That's really good against a lot of decks. Decks that play Temple or think maybe you only play one. It's a good way to bump stadium. So those are techs that kind of make more sense to me. I think just over teching for like a specific deck right now doesn't make as much sense when we don't exactly know what the meta looks like.
Absolutely. All right. So now we're going to kind of flip the switch a little bit and not talk about decks, or talk about techs and decks rather. We're going to talk about the BDIF. So after testing, we've had weeks and weeks of testing on PTCG Live and in person with each other and friends and so on and so forth. And I'm sure everybody's going to still be testing when you get to London if you're playing or at home to get ready for cups and challenges in the new format after this weekend. What is everybody's personal opinion on what the best deck and format is right now? So we'll kick it back over to Christian again. Christian, what do you think the undisputed BDIF right now in the format is?
Yeah, so I don't know who, but I know someone's going to say Charizard. I'm not going to say Charizard.
Okay.
I was actually just completely side tangent real quick. I was very down on Charizard early in this format. I was not a believer. I've had to, take back a couple statements about Charizard, admittedly, but I'm not ready to call Charizard BDIF. I'm just not. It might win a UIC, right? It's definitely going to be the most played deck, and I think it has potential to win a UIC. That aside, I also don't think there's clear undisputed BDIF. I think it's really hard to say right now.
Sure.
If you if you were to absolutely force me to say one deck right now, I would probably say Lugia.
Okay.
It's very sketchy consistency-wise,
Sure.
right? However, you do have what I think is the best matchup spread in the game, and you are able to refine the list and make it consistent, right? I think, theoretically speaking, Lugia should be BDIF. I think Charizard is a contender for that spot. So is Chin Pao. So is potentially any Lost Zone variant, right? I think Lost Zone it's too early to call Lost Zone anywhere close to that yet. I think as the format develops, Lost Zone has a chance to maybe take the BDIF slot, right? But for right now, I wouldn't feel too comfortable in that. But yeah, Lugia is my answer, but I don't think it's clear cut.
Okay. That's very fair. I have played a Charizard Lugia matchup before, and I got my face stomped in by Cincino, and I know how it feels. So, so we'll kick it back to you, Dre. Dre, what do you think the undisputed BDIF is? Are you in agreement with Christian here? Here it comes. And get my tea ready.
Lost Box is the BDIF.
Okay.
It is the best deck in the format. It is you're gonna play more games than you're not. You're not gonna be like, where's my rare candy? Where's my rare candies? Yeah. Because everything's basic.
Sure.
I'm gonna flower select. I'm gonna chorus. I'm gonna concealed cards because there's no path stopping me. I'm going. I might ninja snipe both of your babies before you can even evolve because you missed Manaphy.
That's true.
I might just go and Roaring Moon donk you before you can even get a backup for your Arceus or what have you. The deck doesn't take really anything, any kind of bad matchups right now, in my opinion. I think the closest matchup you get is a 50-50 into Chin Pao because Chin Pao can, get that counter catcher or prime catcher, clone, ninja snipe off. But that's cool. I mean, I can just bounce back from that. I got hands myself.
Yeah.
You know, I can hand your backs. You know, I got all that. It's a really, and then like with Charizard, some people will say that is, but in my testing so far, like because Charizard is so linear on the way it wants to go, it's pretty easy for me to cram spit. They take a KO. I moon KO them. They answer me with Mander. Cool. I just rod cram spit back.
Innocently, though. Innocently.
Yes, innocently. And then I might get Iono to 2, but my deck is thinned out. There's probably like 2 more Colverses left in my deck because I thinned my deck out. There's probably only 10 cards left by that point anyways. I just have to reach for an arm press prime catcher or counter catcher or boss because there's so many gust options now in my deck and hit the Pidgeot.
Yeah. Prime catcher is like the spice. It's so good.
I think that just Lost Box is like in a really, really good position. Like across the board, I don't see really too many bad. And then like I'm gonna say that Lugia is free. Every Lugia I've played because of Iron Hands. If I go first, you're cooked. Because Iron Hands is coming out with Prime Catcher up in Archeops. You can't one shot it back. I'm gonna take 4 prizes regardless with hands.
Right.
And so it's really in. That's just where I am. I'm gonna ride with that. I'm doing the opposite of Christian. I'm gonna put it out there.
You can even you can spit on a Lugia V-Star and then hit it with hands and then do it to the Luminion, and it's just like playing ADP a couple years ago. You know, 3 prize, and you're done.
So just make sure y'all come back to this when Lost Box wins EUIC.
All right.
Hey, Dre, you know what? As long as you're not saying Zard is BDIF, you're on my side.
There you go. All right, Jerrick, do you have any differing opinions here on BDIF in the format right now?
It's close for me.
Okay.
Like I'm in agreement with Christian. I think Lugia is BDIF, but by a very thin margin. Like I think Zard or Chen Pao could easily take that spot once the meta is more defined, and let's like say Charizard adds, I don't know, say a switch is really what it needs, or say a different ace spec to make it the BDIF, or say Chen Pao, maybe they add a 4th candy, 3rd backseat, things like that. So it's very, very close between those 3, but I think it is Lugia right now. Extremely versatile. I think it's actually a 1 prize deck with like a 2 prize engine.
Okay.
Like once you Summoning Star with the Lugia against a lot of decks, Lugia can honestly absorb a hit, and you could just retreat, collapse the Lugia away, and now the rest of your game is just 1 prizers trading against 2 prizers. The only issue, like Dre said, any deck that plays hands and can consistently get hands off is going to make it a very rough time for Lugia.
Yes.
But I don't think that means that it's not the BDIF. I think currently, in my opinion, BDIF.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right, so let's not beat a dead horse here. Let's talk about the top 3 decks in the meta share. So the most played decks for EUIC. What are our thoughts and opinions? Back to you, Christian. What are your top 3 meta share decks for day 1 at least?
Yeah, so I actually gave this question like a lot of thought beforehand because I really can't get myself to limit it to 3. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
Okay.
And I'm going to say it's some combination of Charizard, Shenpao, Lugia, and Turbo Hands.
Okay.
Definitely Charizard.
Yeah.
And then 2 of the other 3. If you force me to pick 2, I'd probably say Shenpao and Lugia.
Okay.
Right. But not by like a large margin by any means. I think those 4 are going to be the most popular decks easily. Right. There are other decks that are going to be on the top 6 graphic and whatever else, and they're going to be widely played. But I mean, I think far and away those 4 are going to be the most played decks. They're very linear in nature. All of them, right? Simple to play for most players. Shin Powell is a bit of an exception there, but even then, right? I think it's important to remember that UIC for the general European player base is the event of the year, right? Which not only means you want to succeed, you also need to succeed, right? If people are trying for their invites, this is the event to do it, right? Which means people are going to pick something that's consistent. They're going to pick something that is linear. They're going to pick whatever they think is just a BIF so that they can play the safe pick and hopefully do well to get their invite, right? And that's going to mean we're going to see an uptick in decks like Zard, Lugia, Pao, that people have not only played before, but are also just generally considered to be good, consistent decks. And I think Hands is just so linear and also new and fresh, right, and exciting to some people that I think it's going to sneak in there. But Yeah, those four. But if you really want three, it's Zard, Lugia, Chen Pao.
Okay, definitely. Dre, would you agree, disagree with those three?
Yeah, I think it's unanimous. Probably, I'm going to go ahead and say that before Jarek answers because I have a feeling it's pretty close to that.
All right.
If you've been keeping track of like online tournaments, just meta discussions online everywhere, I think it's pretty agreed that like Zard, Pao, Lugia, those are going to be the main choices because, like Christian said, people want to go to these ICs. There is so many points that go down so deep that as long as you show up with a consistent deck that you can make sure you play well, you will get points. You will walk away from the event with points, and you want to, leave these ICs with some points towards your invite. So it's definitely I would just lock in Zard number 1 for sure.
Yeah.
Pao. I think Lugia will actually be 2 and Pao will be 3 because of a lot of people that have been testing Pao will see. I mean, myself included, this last format, my last 2 cups, I've been playing Chen Pao and it's actually a lot more difficult than I initially thought. So Zard, Lugia, Pao in that order. If I were to give a fourth, I'd probably say I actually think an Arc deck might take fourth because of the same reasons. Yeah, it is very simple. It's something that people have seen in the past. People are going to think, well, I can make either an Arc pile that counters those top 3, or I'm going to play Arc Tina, which has a lot of answers to everything, also beats control.
Exactly. Arc piles we saw even in the Japanese Champion League where Arc Vulpix got second place. Kind of a wild card there. I mean, I've seen all kinds of Arc piles popping up in and out of here. Arc with Iron Hands even, all kinds of crazy stuff. How consistent they are, I don't know. But I definitely see that. I could also see maybe even a Giratina show up on the graphic too, because it's something people know how to play and have been playing for a while. So, Jerrick, what do you think about these opinions? Are those your top 3 decks? Are any of these going to slot into your third slot here?
No, for my top 3 decks, I agree with both of them. It's Zard, Lugia, Pao in that order. Okay. I don't think anything strays from it. Like, they listed everything, so I don't got much to say.
It's also the favoritism of Pokemon too, right? Like people love Charizard, people love Lugia. They want to play their favorite Pokemon. They're at a Pokemon event, right? Everyone's having fun. We all love the game. So I think that's also another factor that goes into these top 3 decks, right?
Right.
How long is Lugia going to be good? We don't know. Forever. All right. So now that we've gotten through all of the boring stuff, let's talk about something else here. Let's talk about some spicy decks that we've been seeing, we've been playing, what we want to do well. Christian, have you played any spicy decks lately, and anything that you want to see do well at EUIC?
I like Dino Nuggies.
Okay.
No,
it's just fun to say, right?
Right. Yeah. No, my heart says Gimmicky 1 prize deck. I want Ancient Box to do well.
Sure.
I think it can do well. I actually think that deck is a lot better than we're making it out to be. I just don't think it's the right time. Right. Give it a couple events, right? Sure. Maybe like after Orlando, probably, and then I think the meta might be right for Ancient Box. Maybe that's my bias speaking. That's very possible. Reggie's, Sablezard, Rapid Strike Malvar back in the day. Like these single prize decks, they speak to my heart. But we'll see. Outside of that, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I don't know if it counts as spicy anymore, but Gardevoir is a surprisingly real deck.
It is a real deck.
It's not as good as it was. Like, let's get that out of the way. It's absolutely not as good as it was, but it's still a real deck, which I think is better than most people expected, right? So that's worth taking note of. I think that could absolutely do well. Top 8 might be pushing it, but a 1, maybe even 2 in top 32, I actually think is very plausible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Outside of that, I mean, Lost Zone variants, I'm not really like spicy per se, but I think Lost Box with a combination of attackers that we maybe haven't seen before might also do well. I think that'd be really fun to see do well. We saw the Sablezard Iron Hands deck pop up at a couple online tournaments. That looks pretty cool. Might do well. These are all like massive maybes, right? All decks that to me at least look fun to play, and I'd love to see them succeed. But I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on stream, but for now, we'll just guesstimate. So, Dre, what do you think for any spicy decks? I know you've been streaming a lot lately on your Twitch channel here and playing some decks on the PTCGL ladder. Anything that you'd like to see do really well?
So a deck that I've been seeing on the ladder that actually looks like it could have like some viability and actually succeed because it looks pretty consistent is it's like a hybrid like Dino Nuggies. It has the baby moon and the big moon, but it has the Dunsparce engine.
Yeah.
And that the Dunsparce engine is actually like sneaky good. Consistently getting to draw 3 once they evolve, and then they use like Sada to draw another 3, and they're using Ninja to draw 2. Like you're drawing a lot of cards, and the deck can it's accelerating energy. You can hit hard as the game progresses with the baby moon, hit hard instantly right away with the big moon. So like that deck might some sort of build. Maybe somebody cracked it and probably gonna like have a hot run with it. But I would really like to see the Atlas do well, because I'm very much a fan of the Roaring Moon, the baby Roaring Moon. Last formats Moon I didn't like, but this one seems like a little bit, a little smoother.
It's a little bit more less smooth brain, as we would like to call it. But
there's a little bit more going to it.
Not as linear for sure. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see a deck like that. I do love Dunsparce as an engine. I think that's very cool. If somebody could crack that just alone, whether it's Roaring Moon or something else, I think that would be very fun to see on stream for sure.
I also think Raging Bolt has some like viability. I think somebody has
the
like,
Sandy Shocks, bro.
I think I'm not saying Sandy Shocks. I'm not saying Walzone Engine, but the Raging Bolt card, somebody's gonna have it in their deck, and it's gonna make like a good run. There might be like I'm gonna be a little safer on this.
Sure.
On this take, top 32.
Okay.
Someone in top 32 will have a Raging Bolt in their list.
Interesting.
All right. Jerrick, any spicy decks? I know you love the spicy decks just like I do. So let's cook, shall we?
Oh yeah. Okay, so let me start off with a preface to save myself.
Okay.
Before everyone comes after me. So I was fortunate to win a cup last quarter. They got me my Worlds invite already. So EUIC, I can take a little bit more relaxed route if I want to. Obviously, I still want to do well, but new format. So I'm like, man, this would be really cool to break the format with something spicy. So I got a list for y'all.
Right.
One of the first ones I like, I really like Matang Dialga.
Oh, yes.
There are some spice attackers in there that I think people forgot about. The Baby Zam is really good. And it's not super consistent, but I think there are ways you can build it, like playing more energy.
Yeah.
Star Chronos is awesome. Skip a turn.
Sure.
And whatnot.
Yoga Loop, who cares?
It's kind of the same thing. And 220 is a great number to hit.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much there because I have a few of the decks. I've been doing a Salvatore box.
Okay.
So it's like it plays the Noivern, a Bronzong, Aerodactyl V-Star. You auto second, depending what deck you play against.
Yeah.
You Salvatore into that attacker. So against Lugia, you would just Aerodactyl. Against Zard, you use the new Bronzong, so they can't evolve from hand. And then against, say, like Ancient Box or Future Box, you go into the Noivern, basics can't attack it. So I messed with that a little bit. I messed with one I really like is Incineroar.
Ooh, okay. I got beat up by
that
that deck. That deck is wild.
Incineroar is really cool. The new Relicanth, so you could use previous evolutions. Its ability, you could attack for less energy, but the Baby Litten, if you use the right one, it attacks 20 more damage for each damage counter on it. So it's kind of, you take a hit, thanks to the Relicanth, you one-shot anything with the Litten. It's really cool. And the last one that I've had the most fun with is Torterra EX.
Oh, the turtle.
The turtle. There's a really cool middle evolution that lets you search for grass Pokemon, so you find your Pokemon pretty easily. But hopefully one of those do well too. I like all of them. I might be taking one.
All right,
honestly,
that's fair.
One of these spicy
totally
decks.
Fair.
The kitchen in Gumilla's house, man.
Cooking over here.
I will unleash some of mine because I know people love my spicy takes here on the Meta Forecast. Honestly, talking with Christian, Gardevoir is great, but I've been seeing a lot of Banette, and Banette's like one of my favorite cards. Banette EX is a great deck, and I think that we're talking about Salvatore. Salvatore is able to get your banana out a little bit easier. You can use other things like the Aerodactyl. I think I posted a video on the channel a while back. You can go back and search that was playing that style of deck. And I think that it's really cool. I've been seeing a lot of online tournaments where Banette's going into a Gardevoir list and doing really well. So I think that would be spicy. I have a place in my heart for the other style of control, for bird control. So Pidgeot EX control. I'd love to see a list like that do well. One of my friends, All Up Blitzel, has been playing that consistently with online tournaments, doing some crazy wild stuff with Wigglytuff and Cloth EX in that deck. So really crazy. Shout out to them for doing that. And I also think that it would be very funny. I don't know how good it is, but I think it'd be very funny to see Venomoth come back. Because we did see that a while ago. We have Venomoth, the item lock. It's a grass attacker. You put Spite Outs in the deck. They can't retreat. It's kind of again, I'm a degenerate when it comes to Pokemon trading card game. So I think that would be fun to see if somebody could actually just wipe the dust off, pull it out of their binder, and slap it on the table for EUIC. Just because they've already gotten their invite. They just want to do something fun, maybe win the event. Who knows? But lots of cool things that I would love to see come out. And do really well. So shout out to anybody playing a rogue deck for this European International for sure. But that's the meta forecast in a nutshell here. We've all kind of given our picks. So maybe you can take some of this information, make some changes to your deck, or do whatever. Now, if you're making any changes, you want to get some cards for the format going forward, make sure that you're checking out any of the sponsors of the Shuffle Squad down below in the description of this video as well. There's even affiliate codes where you can save some money on some awesome Pokemon product. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let all of our guests give their shout outs and thank yous and let everybody know where you can find them online, so that way you can reach out to them if anything that they said in this meta forecast resonated with you. Maybe you want to get some coaching, what have you. So go back to Christian. Christian, where can the people find you, and what shout outs you want to give today?
Yeah, so I'm primarily active on Twitter, twitter.com or X or whatever, right? StigsPTCG, right? Same handle on Twitch. I stream pretty actively, not that much this week, obviously, with the UIC, but after UIC, regular stream schedule 3 to 4 times a week, European Central Time, for all my fellow Europeans out there. I coach on Metafy, same handle, right? What else? Got to shout out the Lost Time Kitchen, right? I know we're on TSS channel right now. There's nothing wrong with supporting 2 teams, okay?
That's right. That's right.
So got to shout out the Kitchen Boys, and that's pretty much it. Go follow me on Twitter, and then from Twitter you can just find all the other stuff you might be interested in, or might not. I don't know. It's kind of up to you.
There we go. Talk about manga or.
I do that occasionally when I can't hold myself back.
There we go. Okay, Dre, why don't we give some shout outs here? I know you've got a lot of them, a long list. So I'll let you rock and roll with that.
Yeah. So of course, number 1, shout out TSS, love the squad, all the support.
Yeah.
Shout out Candace, always. Shout out Dreoxys, because also rotated, RIP my boy. But find me on Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, X. Like Christian said, it's hard to keep up with what people want to call it. KingDreC1out, like you see on the screen. Metafy, same thing. Twitch channel, same thing. Twitch, I stream Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, PTCG content. Friday, I do like 8-hour streams of Shiny Hunt. So if you like that kind of stuff, all there. YouTube, I think it's Cloud TCG.
There you go.
So all that good stuff. But big shout out to, all my supporters, locals, Fresno, all that good stuff.
Awesome. And Jerrick will not leave you out here for sure. Jerrick, what type of shout outs you want to give, and any socials people can find you on?
So for all things Pokemon, you can find me on Twitter/X at JG_Panda. That's the same tagline for my TikTok where I do openings. Same handle also for my coaching on Metafy. Also my same handle on Twitch. Again, I haven't been streaming a bunch with EUIC and stuff coming up, but I'll be back to it once I'm done traveling there in Orlando. So be sure to check those out. Shout out to the Shuffle Squad, all you amazing members of the Shuffle Squad. Love all you guys. Of course, last but not least, shout out my girlfriend Amanda, who made this cool sign back here. No, you can't see it that well, but it's a bunch of pictures of me playing Pokemon, and it says #TSS win on it.
Nice.
She gave it to me for my birthday.
Very cool.
I want to find a new place for it because it's actually pretty awesome.
That's great.
And Shout out, of course, Candace. I know Dre already shouted out Candace, but for me as well.
There we go. And if anybody wants to talk to us and chat with any one of us, we'll all be at EUIC except for Dre, unfortunately. But Dre will be there in spirit. But any of the Shuffle Squad or the Lost Zone Kitchen that is there, you can always come up and say hi for sure. And we'll be more than happy to talk to you about Pokemon TCG related things. And you can catch us at pretty much any other regional or larger event in the future too. So make sure if you did like this video or you got something out of it, you hit the like button, you subscribe to the channel for more awesome content like this, and share it with a friend too so they can learn more about the game that we all love and enjoy every single day. I'm PJ here with the Shuffle Squad, and we will catch you next time.
Peace.
Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.